Tonight, we examine two issues shaping the polity. First, the backlash over alleged secret changes to the new tax law passed by the National Assembly. A House of Representatives member, Abdul Samad Dasuki, has raised a point of order accusing the presidency of altering the bill after passage. He says it breaches legislative privilege. The claim has stirred anger and dented public trust. Second, concerns over INEC's handling of new political parties. The Commission has released a list of associations said to have cleared early registration steps. Still, several groups accuse INEC of blocking access and shutting them out of the process. Joining us shortly is Dr. Umar Ardo, political affairs analyst and founder of one of the associations seeking registrations as a political party. Thank you for staying with us. Before we delve into the conversation, let's hear from the House of Reps member who raised the point of order, Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki.
I will call on Mr. Speaker to graciously look at what was harmonized, what is in the gazetted copy, what was passed in the House and the Senate. You will find out what is before Nigerians, which is being sold to Nigerians at the Ministry of Information, which I personally went to buy. The gazetted copies are not what was passed. So there is no motion here, but Mr. Speaker, I'll be pleading that all the documents should be brought before the Committee of the Whole.
Dr. Umar Ardo, you're welcome to the program. You've seen what Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki has said, and his very weighty statements regarding the alterations to the tax law that the National Assembly passed. What can you say about that?
Okay, thank you, Ilyasu. If what the honorable member has said is true, and I verily believe that it is true, he could not have come out to make such weighty allegations if he didn't have his onions in control. Then it will be a very, very grievous breach of the Constitution, an act of dishonesty, and is an impeachable offense. Among series of other things that had transpired during this President Tinubu's administration, this breach of constitutional provision is, for me, the most grievous. Because I saw what alterations are said to have been made. Some of them include garnishing people's accounts without a court order. Some of them arresting people without a court order. So very terrifying alterations made. It's like we are being taken back to Germany between 1933, when Hitler took over power, to the declaration of war in 1945, in 1939. Because so many laws were passed by the German
Reichstag
without that made Germany a real fascist state. So we don't need that. No. The presidency, if it is the presidency that altered this thing, then the president deserves to be impeached. If I were in the House of Representatives or the House of Senate, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that would stop me from moving a motion that should impeach the president. Because the lives of the people of this country, our people are dying. They are dying of maladministration. They are dying of hunger. They are dying of communal clashes. They are dying through banditry. They are dying through insurgency, through terror activities. It is such things.
But can I just take us back a little bit to the time that this tax bill was, presented to this National Assembly and to the general public of Nigeria? There was a lot of uproar against it because some of the provisions, didn't appear to go well with sections of this country, and they made a lot of, uproar about it. And then, of course, the presidency, having seen all that, decided to get together with the stakeholders, National Assembly, and decided that they would meet and harmonize this tax law and consider areas that are vexing to the people or to those sections of the country. And of course, that is what brought about the harmonization of the provisions of the tax law. And of course, some of the vexing issues were considered and tempered and all that. And that is why we had this, the National Assembly, both houses got together and agreed on, a more palatable tax bill. Now, for this to come after all this have been done, at least to placate those areas of the country that made a lot of issues about it. What does that really mean? You said there's going to be impeachment, but what really does it?
No, I didn't say there is going to be impeachment. You but suggested. I said that this thing is so grievous that it calls for impeachment process.
Yeah, but the National Assembly...
And if you remember, the League of Northern Democrats, which we convened, we made input into this tax bill. When the tax bill was presented to the National Assembly, League of Northern Democrats, we quickly came together and then brought professionals to come and look at the bill, and then we even got the advisor of the president on the tax bill, I can't remember his name, who came... Oyedele, yes, who came and addressed us. And we now made our input and submitted to the National Assembly. So we were concerned from day one on various clauses of this tax bill, tax law. We cannot just supplant Western tax system on our people just like that. Already we are being, crushed by a lot of economic issues.
But then, the National Assembly, which passed that law, which passed the bill, and it became, a law, as well as the various stakeholders, the governors and whatever, and people like you, the League of Northern Democrats, seem to have been flummoxed, so to speak, by this. And there has not been, even from the National Assembly that actually passed the law, even following Honorable Abdul Samad's revelations, there seem not to have been any outrage from them, any statements of outrage to show that they really didn't want this thing, and that this thing something must be done about it.
No, to be fair, members of the House of Representatives in particular are working very hard to see that they make this investigation and resolve this issue. I have seen a document, I don't know its reliability, in which the investigation is going on, and they have identified those areas, and they are now working towards finding out how did it get into a gazetted one as presented by Abdul Samad. And there are other members of the House of Representatives who also went out of their ways to look at to get the gazetted law, and then some of them confirm that actually what Honorable Abdul Samad had revealed, was actually true.
So what about the presidency? The presidency that that was alleged to have doctored this document seems he has kept quiet about the whole thing.
To the best of my knowledge, I did not hear any response from the presidency. And this is a grievous accusation that the presidency ought to have immediately responded to that. The fact that the presidency is quiet means that they are condescending to this. And if that is the case, then the presidency has committed a grievous offense. There is no way we can operate a government shrouded in mystery, shrouded in suspicion. It creates distrust between government and the governed. And once the government distrusts the government, then the fate of this government is sealed. Forget about the presidency, the APC bringing all governors, into the APC. Where will any governor, especially me, who comes from northern Nigeria, I can guarantee you there is no way that with any governor will deliver the presidency, the APC in northern Nigeria. Not anywhere. But if they say they will, see us.
Yeah, but in this situation, some people have said this sort of what has happened is unprecedented. A situation where a bill passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly requiring the president to just assent to it, and then,
or refuse to assent.
Or refuse to assent, as the case may be. And we've seen that happen in the past. But only for that same document to be presented, gazetted, with those alterations that were not, part of what was agreed. Now, if in the case, should the presidency own up to this, how can we remedy it? Because from all indications now, from the views of lawyers and experts, this document legally is inadmissible. It cannot be operated upon. But the presidency seems to want to go ahead and do it.
How can they do it?
Well, they have gazetted.
How can they do it? Because this is the highest level of dishonesty in governance. You cannot pass a law that is by the National Assembly and then signed by the president, but in its final presentation as a gazetted law, what was passed is not what was gazetted. That is the highest stage of dishonesty. But for me, I will not say conclusively that it was done by the presidency, by the executive. No, it could even have been altered by the National Assembly itself. Leadership of the National Assembly, they could very well have altered it themselves. So that is why the investigation to determine where this thing happened and how it happened and who is responsible for its happening must be concluded.
Okay, let me bring you up to speed on developments regarding this. The presidency, I think sometime today, in a statement, stated that all this is opposition noise, that there is no evidence really to show that it has been altered, and that no amount of uproar or opposition would stop the implementation of the tax law as being gazetted. So in effect, the presidency is going to go ahead regardless of what the House of Reps
if actually that's
say.
What the presidency said, then the presidency is wrong. What the presidency ought to have said is that this allegation is false and that she is open to investigation to determine the veracity or otherwise of the allegation. But for it to say it's opposition that is done, I don't know whether...
This statement is coming from Temitope Ajayi, one of the aides, public affairs aides of the presidency.
He's speaking on behalf of the government.
Yes, so in effect, what the government is saying and what the government is, nobody can stop the implementation of the law, whether it's as gazetted.
As gazetted.
Yes.
The National Assembly can.
But
the National Assembly can. If actually what the National Assembly has passed is not what is gazetted, then it is the responsibility. The National Assembly is duty bound, to halt it, investigate it, and then correct it. If the leadership of the National Assembly fails, then it is the duty of the opposition to now compel the National Assembly to do so. And I would recommend that let the entire opposition, its leadership, to come together and then go on a peaceful protest before the National Assembly, gather before the National Assembly gates, and, and continue increasing in numbers every day until this issue is resolved. But listen, you see, the National Assembly, the leadership of the National Assembly, I have never seen something like that. They swore to with the Constitution of Nigeria. They took, you know, either the Quran or the Bible, and swore that they are going to implement and protect, defend the Constitution of Nigeria. But constitutional abridgments have been done on the floor of the National Assembly. The leadership of the National Assembly never took action. And I can give you the example of the defections of legislators from either PDP, Labour, SDP, or whatever other opposition parties into the APC. Section 101, subsection 1G of the House of Assembly of the Constitution mandated speakers of the House of Assembly, you know, to declare those seats vacant. Section 68, subsection 1G of the of the Constitution mandated the Senate President and the Speaker House of Representatives to declare these seats vacant. But the Senate President never did it. The Speaker of the House of Representatives never did it. The Speakers of the House of Assemblies across the states never did it. Why? Because they are beneficiaries of the sleaze. They are beneficiaries of the unconstitutionality. So if the constitution of this country, the law, is not the basis upon which governance is done, then why are we having government?
So, well, okay, let me just again update you.
It's not also the fault of the National Assembly. It's the fault of the opposition. Our opposition are weak, are timid, and they are, I don't know, they are very weak and timid.
Okay, let me bring you up to date again on developments on this tax bill. You know, Bayo Nanuga has said that, look, implementation of the tax bill has already, you know, commenced, and that nothing, really, absolutely nothing from the opposition or from anybody is going to stop the implementation of the law of the law, and that you know, it's already a fait accompli, and that the law is going to take effect. Already, parts of it has already been listened. And also, the House of Reps, I think from the update I've got is that James Faleke, who is, I think has been appointed Chairman Committee on Finance, has been, you know, appointed to now look at the issues. But everybody believes that James Faleke is a very close ally of the president. In fact, he's his protege, and it's very likely that nothing will come out of it. And then, you know, that's more or less like, you know, closes the issue, and that no opposition to the implementation, or no issues regarding the tax bill as put out by Honorable Abdul Samad will be entertained, or no alterations to the alterations to the alterations will be entertained. So we are possibly on the way to having a constitutional issues here, because then if the National Assembly, which is the independent arm of government and who has the power to implement laws, I mean to recommend laws or to pass laws, has its powers abrogated, especially in this case, then what do we have? What's going to happen? Are we not running into a constitutional issue on this matter?
We are moving inexorably towards dictatorship. That is what it means, because it abrogates the principle of separation of powers and checks and balances. Don't forget, under the present democratic dispensation, under our presidential system of government, the legislature is a more powerful arm of government than the executive. The only problem is that the powers of the legislature is split among 360 in the House of Reps and 109 in the House of Senate, while the powers of the executive is, you know, concentrated in the hands of only one person. So if we can aggregate and bring together all the members of the National Assembly and to take a position, at least we can always guarantee a two-thirds of them. There is no presidency, there is no executive that can do arbitrary things and then get away with
What
it.
about the significant others in this issue? The governors, the tax experts, and people who made a lot of representation pertaining to the original bill and what was passed.
They have
now,
no role. What role are they? These are implementers. They implement the law. The most critical aspect, the branch in this that will resolve this issue, there are two. One, the legislature. Two, the judiciary.
That is
so when the two arms of government, the legislature and the judiciary, are compromised, then two critical arms have been detonated, and then we are left with the executive, and that means we are moved straight into dictatorship.
And what implications are there for this country's democracy?
It therefore means that when you make peaceful change impossible, you are inviting, a violent change. You are making violent change, feasible, and we should.
What do you can you expatiate on that?
No, when you clearly that there is a distrust between the government and the governed. The government refuse to trust the government, and the government refuse, to take heed of the position of the governed. Then there's a breakdown of trust between the two. And if the opposition comes out and say, we will not accept this thing, and then they come out and protest, the only way, that you can disperse that protest, is to violently attack them. And if you do so, you are creating more problems for the country.
There are indications.
It is the responsibility of the president to avoid crisis in this country. And the only way for him to avoid crisis is for him to be honest, open, and transparent to Nigerians. He cannot do anything the way he wants to do.
There are indications that the opposition is actually, gearing up to oppose this. And in fact, that includes not just, through the National Assembly, but also organizing protests against this, because they want to make, from what they've said, they're going to make some, organized protests and also have, town hall discussions about this, and to make Nigerians realize that we have a very serious breach of the Constitution here. But how far can this go? Since this government appears obdurate and says, we are going to implement this, whether people like it or not.
There is no such government on earth that will do that whether people like it or not.
Yeah, but they said it.
But they can say it, but they cannot implement it. They better get people to like it. It is in their own best interest to get the people to like it, because it is the people that put them there. So if the people say, we don't like it, you must change it, and they say we are going to stick to our guns and then do it, enforce it on the people, then they are creating issues that they cannot resolve.
What are those issues?
By creating, a condition where, a peaceful resolution of issues are made, impossible.
So what will happen after that?
I don't know. When things have collapsed, obviously, there's going to be serious consequences on the part, of both sides.
And you think that would affect that would drastically affect the practice of democracy in the country when you have one part of the one arm of government, in this case,
of course, our democracy is built on three clear arms of government. The legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, and all the three are supposed to, they have very defined, responsibilities, and they are supposed to check and balance the others. So when the principle of check and balance is removed, then democracy has collapsed.
Then I will refer you to, two incidences that, that makes this, what you're saying to be virtually grave. First, some 1 month or so ago, the judiciary, when they had a meeting, with the president, and they were singing, on your mandate, we stand. And just recently, during the budget presentation at the National Assembly, also the National Assembly said, on your budget, on your mandate, we stand. So how really can we expect the judiciary, which is an arm of government, independent arm of government, and the National Assembly, which is another arm, independent arm of government, how possibly can we expect them to mount the kind of, opposition to this apparent breach of constitutional, procedures? How possibly can we really expect them to do it?
I will be surprised if actually judiciary will sing on your mandate we stand.
Yeah, but
I don't know. You may very well be right, and if it is so, then it is the most frightening. Why? Because the court is the umbilical cord to society, or let me say the spinal cord. The court is the spinal cord to a society, as spinal cord is to you and me, to a mammal. If your spinal cord is injured, if my spinal cord is injured, I collapse. I become a vegetable. If the judiciary collapses, society collapses and becomes a vegetable. I have gone to court.
But let me hold it there. The judiciary recently, met, and the Supreme Court, in fact, met and granted the president powers, very, very liberal powers, to remove governors in an emergency situation, determine what an emergency is, and remove governors and all that down the line. Now, you are here saying if, but we already have tendencies that would now determine whether...
No. You see, the court process is a complex process. Just because the court made a judgment on this, it is based on what is before the court. I don't want to go into that. If the court, as you said, the judiciary will come out and sing to the president on your mandate we stand, I doubt it. I doubt it. But if it so happens, then that is the end. That is 100% the end.
End of what?
The end of democracy.
You sure?
And it is the end of society.
So
because the court is the spinal cord of society. Just as the spinal cord of a mammal, holds the mammal together, and if that spinal cord is injured, this mammal collapses and becomes a vegetable. If the courts are compromised to the point of saying, on your mandate we stand, to an elected president, then the society has collapsed and have become the vegetable. Because where will you go again other than the court? Nowhere. So do you want me to go and become Truji? Get a gun and then start fighting? No. That is why, as I was telling you, I personally have signed, affidavit 16 times going to court. Because it's the only way I can go. But I have never once got in judgment. Never once got in judgment. But what do I do? Like now, on the issue, on your second issue, which I want us to discuss.
I wanted the fact, that is what I want to get.
Because that is where I
talking about the spinal cord, just the second, segment.
Yes.
The INEC, which is also one of the very important institutions of democracy in this country, because it's the electoral umpire. At some point, even the president, the fate of the president is determined by the INEC, has come out now to say, more or less to say all the political parties that have, applied to be registered for the next round of political, elections and all that, did not meet the requirements, and that of course includes even your own party and all that. So really, what does that portend really?
Actually, INEC never made that public.
Why?
You see, on Thursday, INEC sat down and considered the 8 political associations that they have sieved from 172 that expressed interest, reduced to 14, that went into, that bought forms and then paid 2 million to go and apply, down to 8 that were qualified, and then they came and for what they call verification exercise, They came and verified our claims. And at the end of it, on Thursday, they sat down and INEC did not register even one of us. Not one. Unlike the previously, whenever INEC meets on Thursdays, they make a press release. Say that, look, we have pre-qualified these ones, in INEC's list of transparency, we did that and that and that, and then post it on their website. This Thursday, after disqualifying all of them, INEC kept mute. INEC did not give a press release telling Nigerians that we disqualified all these ones. It's only two that they wrote them and said, we want more information. All the remaining 6, they wrote us, through email and said, you are not qualified. Why are you not qualified? They said, we are not qualified because we did not meet the requirements of section 222 to 224 of the Constitution. Then I think Article 5 and something of the Electoral Act, and then
what
the
does that
rules and
section say?
regulations.
For emphasis.
We met each and every requirement of the Constitution. We met, that is ADA, the political association that I represent, All Democratic Alliance. We met 100% the requirements of the Constitution.
By your own reckoning. But not by INEC.
Listen, INEC itself, said these are stages. First, they look at your acronym, your constitution, your logo, your the name of this, and then your flag and symbol and so on. If it does not, conflict with those of others, then they now, pass you. We were past this stage. Then we now paid 2 million to apply on a dedicated INEC application portal, and then we submitted, and then it was successfully, submitted, and INEC acknowledged. And then, if you remember, a few weeks ago, INEC made a press release after meeting and saying that we are qualified for the next round, which is visitation, physical verification of our claims, to see our offices, to see the executive that we have. By the provision of the law, we needed only 24 states. When they came, we presented 36 states and the FCT. Each and every document that INEC has in their portal, we gave them. Each and every rules and regulation, we fulfill. They asked this and that, we gave them. There is nothing that we did not qualify, absolutely nothing. But at the end of the day, INEC came out and said we did not qualify.
Now, the new INEC chairman, Professor Josh Amupiton, there's been a lot of misgivings about his appointment. Of course, all INEC chairmen in this country, one way or other, they have always, had one misgivings about them from the public. But in the case of this, there has been quite a lot of, right from the beginning, there's been quite a lot of issues surrounding him. For instance, he was alleged to have written a memo to the United States Congress, regarding the alleged genocide.
Christian genocide
in Nigeria. And also, there have been also allegations of his being in cahoots, or rather, with the president. It was even alleged at some point that he, was, the president's lawyer or something like that. Now, with all these allegations, I said, now with all this hanging around him, do you have a feeling that he will handle the electoral process right up to the elections and declaration of resources, judiciously and without with fairness that requires of his position?
I want to discountenance this issue of his writing to the United States Congress on this Christian genocide. Serious as it is, I don't want to discuss it.
Why?
Because it is not, to me, it is not relevant to the key issues facing us in the election. what is relevant. And also, whether he's in cahoot with the president, that is another thing. I don't want to. And I saw also the allegation that he was the president's lawyer. He was not. That I know for a fact. He was not in that team. So let us put out his, let us put out his personality aside. My major problem with him is that we fulfill, as a lawyer, as a professor of law, we fulfill 100% the requirements of the law from one stage to the other, to the final stage. And we also know that the committee that visited us and for the verification, recommended us. But in the deliberation of the commission on this recommendation, they failed to register even one political association as a political party. INEC is trying to tell us that 172 associations that registered, that applied for registration, none is qualified. Not one is qualified. Come on.
But again,
and the constituted law, section 75, subsection 4 of the Electoral Act, said that where you meet these conditions, INEC shall register you within 60 days. Except if INEC writes you and tells you we are not registering you for this reason. And the section said from the date of your application and acknowledgement.
So in effect,
ADA,
what they're telling you...
ADA, we applied on the 9th of October. Our 60 days ought to end on the 8th of December. INEC did not write us until the 18th of December. That is 10 days after it elapses. So by law, by the letter of the law, we automatically are a registered political party.
But the INEC says otherwise.
The INEC said otherwise. INEC will have to come to court.
Yeah, but then, okay, let's look at this scenario.
We are taking INEC to court. Let INEC come to court and tell the court how we fail. That is all. That is it. Let INEC come and tell
Let's look at this scenario. Perhaps, just perhaps, there is this thinking among certain, political circles that registering you would provide an alternative to the opposition, especially seeing that the ADC, the people who are looking at ADC as likely to be the main opposition to the ruling party, now that the PDP and other parties have become more or less comatose. They are looking at the possibility of you, that's your party, ADA, being the alternative. And it's likely that, okay, to be able to stop you, what the INEC has done is to be able to stop you before you even grow wings and become such a strong, factor in opposing the current, the ruling party. Have you not factored that in, or is just...
That has no bearing in the provision of the law. It has absolutely... This is politics. You can make your insinuations.
Conspiracies,
whatever conspiracy has no bearing with the position of the law.
So what will you put down to the rejection of your...
I don't want to input motives. What I just want to is that it is a fact that INEC has, failed, in recognizing a duly, political party that met each and every requirement of the law. And this is not, INEC has no discretionary powers in denying political association that meets this. The provision of the law says...
What then can you now, because since INEC has not come out to clearly state...
I told you we are taking INEC to court. INEC must have to come to court and then tell the court how we fail to meet these provisions of the law.
And you think that the court will give you justice?
It does not really matter whether the court gives us justice or not.
And other political parties, by the way.
I'm not talking of any other political party. I'm talking of ADA. The party that I represent,
yeah, but
the
surely
political association that I represent.
You, at some point, you may like to say, okay, we are going to talk to other political parties.
This is politics. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about law.
Sometimes they have a junction.
No, I'm talking about the law. What INEC did, in essence, if I will go by your argument, is that it has closed the political space already the existing political parties.
That's a very grave accusation.
Yeah, already the existing political parties are all infected with viruses. Each and every one has a very deadly virus. PDP has a deadly virus, AGC has a deadly virus, Labour has a deadly virus, SDP has a deadly virus. It's part of the judgment that the Supreme Court gave a few days ago, in favor of the SDP. NMPP has a deadly virus. All the political parties, that are registered, they have deadly virus.
But isn't that a negation of what you said earlier on?
No, Nigerians have been expecting and being hopeful that a new political party can be registered and that it will open the political space in which they will express, their political, interests. They will, but by denying any of these political associations from being registered, INEC has closed the political space, and it is in the interest. What it does, it is in the interest of the APC, because it is only the APC that is now a functional political party. So INEC is by so doing aiding the APC, and that is where I have problem with the INEC leadership.
Yeah, but let's look at it this way. I mean, there are some people who at some point earlier on actually wanted to, enter be part of what the ADA is going to be, in anticipation of the ADA was going to be, that ADA was going to be, registered.
All across the country.
Now, those people would now look back and say, yes, actually we did the right thing, because if we had gone to ADA and put all our eggs in ADA's basket, perhaps this is what's going to happen to us. But now that some of us are in ADC, maybe it's the place to be, since ADA has now been cast adrift by INEC.
You see, in other words, it validates the views of members of the coalition. Atiku, David Mark, all the leadership of the coalition said that INEC will not register. They will get one reason or the other, they will not register. And I insisted that INEC will have no reason not to register if we fulfill all the requirements. And I also insisted, and I still stand, that if INEC does not register,
have they not been vindicated now?
If INEC does not register, after our fulfilling of all requirements, then we know where to place INEC. The next thing we will do is to go to the judiciary. They say, where is the court? The court they are all compromised. I say, it's okay. Let us go to the courts and let the courts also deny. So if the courts also deny, then as politicians, as opposition, then we have what to campaign for reforms. We have,
meanwhile,
we have INEC.
Meanwhile, you'll be doing that from the outside.
Judiciary.
From the outside.
We will obviously, you will do it from the outside. You will do it. They become your campaign base.
But you don't have a political party.
There will always be one. There will always be one. There are, maybe we can go to PRP, or maybe we can go to another of these political parties. Let the regime go to PRP or go to another and then inject them with viruses. Let them do so. And let them leave only the APC that has no virus. I can tell you one thing. If you are alone in the desert, you will die of hunger. You will die of thirst. If the APC put off all the rest and seem to be the only one that is alive, I can guarantee you APC is not doing itself any good.
Really? Can you provide details of this?
APC is not doing itself any good. Let us see with their governors, with their legislators that they are carrying and putting into APC, let them go now. Let them. We have been in this for a long time. It is not going to be the same.
What do you mean by that? Just because you are talking in, we want to hear, because it's a very serious issue now. Everybody's talking about the fact that the APC has virtually, taken over the political space, and that is squeezing out some of the political parties that may threaten its hold. And then, it's a very, very serious situation. So if we are heading towards that scenario, what really can we say as ordinary citizens and political actors about what's likely to happen to this country.
You see, if President Jonathan, who wielded the same powers that President Tinubu is wielding from the same constitution, if he had behaved the way we are having and got INEC not to register APC, the story would have been different. But APC was registered because the opposition to President Jonathan, to the PDP, was very strong. They were very forthcoming. And so they think that President Jonathan was a weak president. Jonathan was never a weak president. It is the opposition that was a strong opposition. But some people claim that President Tinubu is a strong president. President Tinubu is not a strong president. It is the opposition that is weak. If the opposition can be strong...
The difference between 6 and half a dozen, isn't it?
If the opposition can be strong, I can guarantee you nothing of this can happen. Nothing.
But let me refer you to a statement by Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. He said that, look, the APC cannot cry over spilled milk. It's left to the opposition to provide the robust opposition that is required of it. That the space is there for them, but they're not fulfilling it. And he cannot, and they in the ruling party cannot really help them if they cannot do what they're supposed to do.
It is the same Akpabio who was pleading on President Tinubu not to remove security for them because they will not go to their constituencies, that they will be stoned.
So
he knows. He knows that he cannot go there without armored tanks, police surrounding him with the military and everything. On his own, he cannot walk on the streets, of Uyo. None of them will walk free in the streets of Nigeria. None of them. So if they really are, popular, let them walk the streets. They are not. So you see, we are driving our country into problems. We must solve this problem. It is the passion, it is this consideration that made some of us to now work towards the creation of the APC and the removal of the PDP from power, because PDP was drilling.
So now you think...
And we must now again come together and then work towards, removing the APC, because the APC is drilling. And I am confident, I am very confident that the APC will be removed in office in 2027. And I'm ready to bet on that. Because you see, in 2000 and...
Is that not just chest beating?
No,
without any...
Listen. In 2012, when President Buhari, Tinubu and Buhari met, it was at my instance that they should go and meet and form the alliance, the formation of the APC. I formulated the entire thing. I sent President Buhari to go and meet with Tinubu. And he went and met with Tinubu. Whether Tinubu came to Kaduna or whatever, they met. And when they met, they finished. Buhari then called me. Said, "Doctor, let us meet. I'm on my way to Abuja." I said, okay. He came, he was in Hilton Hotel. And then they called me. Abbasarki is one of his majordomos, called me, and I went. And then we went inside the room. And he reported to me that I have met with Tinubu, and we have agreed, just as you have suggested, and that he has accepted this. He made amends here and there, but we have agreed on that. But in that room, I knew that PDP has lost the election. In that room. But I want to listen to me. In that room, I knew. That was in March 2012. I have a friend, a lady, a princess from Lagos, one of the high-class, Nigerian elites. She was with the Jonathan regime. She used to take me into the villa and help me in one way or the other. So after Buhari briefed me, I knew that the PDP was gone. So I placed a call onto her. I said, "Hi, Princess, how are you?" "Fine." I said, "Princess, this is what is happening. We always exchange political discourses with her. This is what is happening. I can guarantee you that, Jonathan will be defeated in 2015.
So you're also guaranteeing us that Tinubu is going to be defeated?
I want you to please leave that, ship is going. Come, let us work together so that we form a new government under Buhari. She said, no, it won't happen. She, to the point that she challenged me to betting. She said, I bet you. And, I don't like to be challenged like that when I'm convinced on things. So I said, hey, what are you betting me on? She said, a brand new Prado. That if Jonathan loses to Buhari in 2015, she will give me a brand new Prado. And if Buhari loses to Jonathan in 2015, I will give her a brand new Prado.
So where's the Prado
So
now?
I said, okay, I agree. How do we go? What is our witnesses? Then she said that, let our spouses be our witnesses. She's married to a Scottish man, and I'm married to a princess. So I said, I agree. So let us meet myself, yourself, your husband, and my wife, and then agree on this. She said, look, I'm in Lagos, you are in Abuja. Let us, in the mid of the night, maybe around 11, let's have a conference call with your wife beside you, with my husband beside me, and then we agree on this. I said, I agree. I went back home, I told my wife. My wife said, no. I said, that is what will happen. She went back home and told her husband. Her husband said, come on. But that was, so in that night, we now, made the calls. She was on speakerphone with her husband. I was on speakerphone with my wife. And then we spoke. The husband, witnessed her. And my wife witnessed me. And we left it like that. That was 2012. Until we went to 2015. And then, Jonathan called and congratulated Buhari.
Now, okay.
I called Princess.
Okay, let's talk about the.
No, this is an interesting story.
I know it's an interesting. It's anecdotal.
It.
It's anecdotal. But what I'm trying to say now is there are some people looking at the situation that we are gradually getting into. I said, look, if the opposition cannot even muster any opposition to this party, to the ruling party, and if it appears that the APC, the ruling party, seems seems on the way to ruining elections even before the election started, why do we even need to have elections? Like, why can't the INEC just continue and say, look, wait until the time, and then say, look, since the opposition is not there, has not been able, we are not going to waste our time to organize elections.
Such a scenario cannot happen and should not also happen, because what has not happened cannot be assumed to have happened until it happened.
Contrafactual, that's what you were saying.
So, now, there must be election. And as Margaret Thatcher said, 24 hours is a long time in politics. We have over 1 year plus to go for the election. In this 1 year plus, I can guarantee you anything and a lot of things will happen that will upturn the apple cart.
Thank you.
I can tell you on this platform that I do not see President Tinubu returning as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I don't see him. Okay. And I'm ready to bet any Nigerian a brand new Prado.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this is why we need to wrap up, on this, because the time is not really on our side. But I think, I'll take you up on that, in 2027. And if your predictions come through, perhaps maybe you give me that Prado. I'm not.
No, you have to give me too. If you cannot give me, so don't expect me to give you.
Okay, Dr. Umar Ardo, thank you very much for your perspectives on the state of the nation. Thank you for being part of the conversation tonight. We appreciate your analysis as always. And viewers, that's a wrap up on this week's edition of Sunday Politics. Daily Politics returns tomorrow. Until then, on behalf of the team, I'm Ilyasu Gadu. Bye for now.